What's going on, everybody? We are back with another fucking episode of The Jungle. And with me today, I have two of my best friends, Jeremy Yonker and Tyler Griffith. And so these guys have been on the podcast. I actually did episodes with both of them where they've kind of talked about their stories and their journeys. So we're not going to really get into that a whole lot today. What we're going to get into is, so I've made a couple posts on Facebook. I had a episode that I just posted the other day about unconventional sobriety. So I wanted to come on here and I wanted to talk with two gentlemen who, so I'm just going to say real briefly, like I said in the videos the other day, this is just a way that I am broaching this topic. It's not a thing. Unconventional sobriety is not a thing. It's a literal wordplay that I'm using to describe the topic that we are talking about. I had some people come at me in the comment sections. I had some people DM me and tell me I was full of shit. And listen, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I don't care. I respect everybody's opinions just as I wish everybody would respect my opinions and where I'm coming from. So I figured in lieu of all that, I would bring on my buddy Tyler. Tyler has been sober, completely clean and sober, not done anything for the last 8 years. Okay. I myself, I have not picked up heroin, opiates, anything in the last, I think it's been about 10 years at this point. Jeremy, my buddy here, he still smokes, but he has not done meth in over 8 years. So the whole point of having these guys on is I wanted to have kind of like a middleman in the conversation who is completely sober. And I wanted to bring Jeremy on. He still smokes. And myself, who I go out with my wife periodically and have a few drinks. So I'll just start with Jeremy. Like, you and I were talking before we started going live here, and you were talking about how you know that you can't drink because it's basically going to lead you back to spots that you shouldn't be. Calling the dope man for coke at fucking 3, 4 a.m. But you still smoke. So there's a reason you still smoke. So talk about that real quick. Like, what's the...
Okay, so let me clarify. I spent, let's see, it was about 6 years totally sober. Okay, no weed smoking, no nothing extra, and that time that I spent doing that is really was the foundation for with which I'm able to live my life the way I live it now. Because all those things that I learned amidst all that, going to those AA meetings and doing all that and doing leads and sponsoring a couple guys and doing that kind of stuff, that is really the cornerstone, because there's a lot of things that you do, I feel like, in AA that are absolutely beneficial to not just staying sober, but just cleaning up your life. Like, tying up loose ends with family members, tying up loose ends with people that you've done wrong to, things like that. So, that stuff is still very prevalent in my life. You know what I mean? As it relates to trying to use a lot of the things that I've learned, in sobriety, in my life, with family things, relationships, things like that. So, yeah. So, for me, it's the reason why I smoke has a lot to do with anxiety. I have a short temper. I'm not the best version of myself stone sober. I don't feel like, and it's weird because the guys that I work with, I've worked with some of them for all through this whole thing, all through my whole sobriety. You know what I mean? I've worked with them and they'll tell you Jeremy's a better dude now. He's a lot easier to work with. He's a lot easier to get along with, because it used to be, this is how the fuck it's going to be. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. Shut up. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how it was. You know what I mean? And it's like, this, I'm the one in charge of this motherfucker. Here's how we're doing it. I don't give a fuck what you think. And now now I'm a little bit more lax. I'm not so at your neck, and I'm a happier person. I'm a better husband. I'm a better son because of it. I'm a better brother and friend and everything, and it's just one thing that I do that, that's the only thing that I do, though. By the way, we'll clarify that too. It's not just meth that I don't do. I don't do anything but smoke weed. There's nothing but smoke weed. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so you brought up a good point that I want to start with, and it's building a foundation. So I used to watch these videos. I can't remember the guy's name. I've tried to look him up, but he used to post videos about whole self change. And it's an AA theory, and it's basically like, it's not living your life like to the big book. It's basically like changing your heart, like changing you, like you
Right.
said, you have to build a foundation. You have to have something to like sit on that's solid before you ever get into like the other bullshit. Like, and
Right.
by
Right.
bullshit, I mean like you decided to start going back to smoking weed. Dude, like I said in the podcast the other day, I don't think weed should have ever been legalized. If they're going to turn around and dole out all these prescription pills, medications to people that are in recovery, like what the fuck is wrong with weed? You know what I
Right.
mean? It's the same effect. It's just now being legalized, but I wholeheartedly think you have to have a solid foundation before you ever even I was completely clean and sober for I think it was 3 years before I ever decided to go out and have a drink. You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, I like I said, people came to me in my comments section. I don't claim to be sober, so I'm just going to clarify that right now. You know what I mean? I understand I go out, but I want everybody to understand too. There's nothing wrong with the unconventional sobriety. Like in my heart, now maybe in other people's hearts, but in my eyes, if you're able to live your life, be a productive member of society, all three of us work out like fucking monsters. You know what I mean? We have loving relationships with our family. There's no consequences involved with what we're doing. We're responsible about it. We pay our bills. I don't see anything wrong with anybody who has been a former addict that wants to go out and smoke a joint or fucking have a beer or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I do. So I've got Tyler here too. And so Tyler's been sober for 8 years and I love Ty. So I've said this before. Tyler was my bunkie when we were locked up in county. That's how I met Ty. And I have loved Tyler ever since. We've been brothers. We've been like best friends since. And I love Tyler for one fucking reason, and it's Tyler does not hold back. If Tyler's got shit that he wants to say, or if he feels some sort of way, he's gonna fucking tell you. And those are the people that I surround myself with. Him and Jeremy's the same fucking way. So that's why I wanted to have Tyler on here because I think Tyler's got some maybe conflicting issues. I know Tyler doesn't give a fuck what people do, but I kind of wanted to hear Ty's take on it. So how do you feel about the whole like me drinking, Yonk smoking, unconventional sobriety? Give me your take on it real quick.
Yeah, well, so, to each their own. I mean, people find different avenues that work for them, but I just know I can only speak for myself. And me personally, I tried every combination and concoction that you could even think of on the earth to try to do the sobriety thing, and nothing worked for me except complete abstinence.
Yeah.
Because but once again, I didn't have really any kind of foundation either. But I mean, I was around some pretty influential people in the beginning of my sobriety that pounded it into my head, that hey, like you need to quit doing it Tyler's way, and that's what worked for me. And I needed that foundation to even be what I am today,
Yeah.
and also I have friends from all walks of life, but for the first half of my sobriety, I couldn't associate with anyone that, I used to hang around with or that was using or drinking, not necessarily because it would trigger me, but because I was told that's, don't do that, right? You know what I mean? But also, we in my opinion, one of the main points why we get sober is so we can have a somewhat normal life, right?
Yeah.
So I can have friends that want to go out and drink a little bit, or want to smoke a little bit of weed. That's not, it's not like, oh my God, like I know a couple times Tackett and I've hung out and he's like, man, I gotta leave my alcohol in the car, like when we had that Halloween party.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't care. It's not like we're locking up our liquor cabinet and
Right.
oh. But yeah, I mean, I feel I'll just call it what it is. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. You
Well,
know what
and
I mean?
it's
If you're doing it, that's fine. You know what I mean? But don't sit here and try to be like, oh yeah, man, I'm completely sober. It's like,
yeah.
well, are you really?
Yeah. And again, like I said, the unconventional sobriety phrase that I use, I am fully aware that it's not a real thing. Like, and
Mm,
I'm going to continue to stress that because I know people are going to come for me. Like that's,
right.
but just like you said, and just like Jeremy said, you have to build a foundation. But also, like once you build that foundation, you're living a positive life, and you're living a
Mm,
life where you love yourself, and everybody's accepting of you, and they love you. Like you've restored relationships. it shouldn't be an issue. And that's where I have always had a big hang up with AA and NA, is because there's the stigmas. There's the, well, he's still drinking, so you can't hang out with him. And I get it. Like early on in sobriety, you should not be hanging. If you're trying to be completely abstinent or trying to get your life together, you have to cut ties. I did it with all my entire friend group right now are all people that are on an upward trajectory. You know what I mean? I don't fuck with people who are sitting in a rut and not doing shit with their lives. Like every single one of the fucking people that I love and that are in my life, they have goals, they have purpose, they have family that loves them. They're good dudes. You know what I mean? And coming out of like, I remember when I first got out of prison and I started going to AA, NA, I got so hung up on it's by the book. There's no exceptions. It's this way or no way. You know what I mean? And I don't like having to conform.
Yeah.
I am a very against the grain type of individual. I always have been. I always fight back no matter who it is or what it is. And I remember coming out of AA and NA meetings and being like, dude, I can't do this the rest of my fucking life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it all boiled back to, like we all talked about, you have to learn to love yourself. You have to make change. And that's where the real growth happens, you know?
One thing I think that's really important to all this too, man, that is kind of a underscore to all this is, the key to doing and keeping around, and being on an upward trajectory in your life and all that kind of stuff is, abstain from all that shit until you got a life that you don't need to run from anymore. A life that you're happy to be living.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's a key
Yeah.
that's a key to all this, man, because I'll tell you what, dude, if I was still living in my parents' upstairs bedroom and I'm smoking weed, I'm on my way I'm on my way to the other shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me personally. Now, I think that people are gonna do what they're gonna do. And in no world do I think that my plan and what works best for me is what's best for everybody. And that's how doctors make their money, because not every medication is going to be cookie cutter for every person. Not everybody needs medication. Sometimes some people just want to be, they just need to clear their head, and then everything's fine. And then some people, they get clean, and that's just the beginning of their problems. They got a lot of mental health stuff, some stuff that they have been running from their whole lives, things that happened in their past as a child, things like that, things they got to clean up, but yes, I don't know where I was headed with that, but
Smoke another one, dude.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's
that
like
weed. That's that weed, man. That's that weed.
I've been on such a mission, because I really had to pull myself out of a hole, like like all three of us have, right? And I just went on a warpath of, and it's just, some people would say like, well, if you and like I feel this way, maybe not wholeheartedly, but because I'm a very look at it from both sides of the street kind of person, you know what I mean? It's like some people would say, well, if you feel the need, like, oh, hey, man, like, I'm a dickhead, I want to yell at people all the time. I want to this, I want to that. Well, then maybe there's something we're not doing right that makes us feel like, oh, we need to get
Well, some work you haven't done on yourself at that point.
like I need a release somewhere or what, and
Right.
who's to say it's more complicated than that, or if it's more of a surface level thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like Jeremy was saying, everyone's different, you know what I mean? But
Well, I think a lot of that comes from too, like Jeremy brought up earlier. If you're at a point in your life where you're happy, like I'm 100%. I love my fucking life. I love everybody in my life. I have great relationships with everybody in my life. So I'm not going to grab a beer just because I'm trying to escape. You know what I mean? My wife and I, that's what we do. We were talking about this on Friday night, and I because this whole topic's been brought up pretty frequently lately, and I told her, I said, if I want to go, if our thing is going and having a nice dinner, having a glass of wine over dinner, having a few drinks, enjoying each other's company, I'm not going out to escape from whatever I have going on. You know what I mean? That's just what we enjoy doing. Jeremy, you said that like you smoking helps with like your anxiety and shit. You're not escaping from anything. You know what I mean? That's just what you enjoy doing. And I just want to stress to everybody out there, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, and I hate that, like I was telling Jeremy before, like you go into an AA meeting and you still say that you're smoking, you're going to be villainized. They're going to look at you all kinds of fucking crazy. Like they're going to accept you in there, but you don't have a voice. You're not allowed to speak.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have to sober, not to.
Yeah.
And,
You're
and that's
not.
fair. And that's fair. And that's why I don't walk in and be a hypocrite. You know what I mean? I still
Yeah.
am friends with all those people. You know what I mean? I'm still friends with all those people and all that kind of stuff. I still talk to most of them. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to go in there, pounding my chest, talking about how sober I am, because that's not the reality.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, and like for me, it's like I 100% hear what you guys are saying, but like I just get a moral dilemma, right? So it's like cunning, baffling, powerful, right? So like I hear what we're saying, like, oh well, I'm not doing this to escape anything, but are we really? And that's where my mind starts getting twisted up, right? Because it's like, well, this is a very, very tricky thing we're dealing with, right? Alcoholism, addiction, right? So our brain can tell us a lot of funny stuff when we're like, oh, I'm just doing this to have a good time and to be social and to just, knock off a couple after work to relax. And it's like, well, I mean, I don't know.
But then when does a couple become too many and when does it become exciting? Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Slippery slope.
Right.
It's a slippery slope. And that very well may be the case for some individuals, including yourselves. But like for me, I'm like, hold on a minute. What? Because I'm a very intellectual person, right? So I overanalyze. So I'm like, well, if I feel like I need to smoke a joint after work, or if I feel like I need, oh man, tonight I just want to go out and have a couple drinks, man. Like so many times that's been the setup.
Yeah.
For what I deal with to come back in and be like, here we go, I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
As you guys know what I deal with on a daily basis, right? I'm a father of 5. I own a business. I'm a full-time student. And it's like I would be. I just don't know where it would take me, and that's and not the only reason why I'm sober is a fear-based type of thing, but it's like,
but you know how quick you could end up back to where you were
and I feel like, there may be days where I'm a little agitated, but hey, this is life, right? I mean, everyone's gonna be, but I feel like I have made such strides in the past 8 years of my life, like I don't even want to even try to see where that's even gonna take me, you know what I mean? Because it's like, and that's a big thing in 12-step recovery type programs. It's like complete abstinence is the only thing that truly works. And then you say it's I don't like to conform. I don't like. I mean, I totally get it. I was the same way, but every time I tried to do it my way, I ended up right back into chaos, misery, everything. You know what I mean? So it's a very touchy subject.
It is. And that's where, I mean, you mentioned it earlier, and Jeremy said the same thing. It's different strokes for different folks. Maybe my terminology with the whole topic is a little off key. I get that. It's a very controversial topic, somebody that's going and smoking weed or having a few drinks, but they're still able to stay off the heroin or the meth or anything else. I get that, and I'm not trying to take away anything from anybody that is completely abstinent. Like that's a whole fuckload of work in itself. You know what I mean? But there's also another whole group of people in society that have been addicts and can still go out and drink and have a beer, smoke a joint, whatever. And I feel like maybe at some point it would get to be too much for those people. And at that point, maybe they do need to go back into AA or NA. But I don't want to ever discredit somebody or take away from somebody being able to completely abstain from putting needles in their arms or smoking meth or whatever, too. Because even though I still drink periodically, I still celebrate the last day, January 13th. I still celebrate the last day that I did heroin. You know what I mean? Because to me, that's what was ruining my fucking life. That's what made me unproductive, a piece of shit. And that January 13th was the day that my whole fucking life changed. You know what I mean? So everybody should still be able to celebrate the date that, you know what I mean? Progress is progress. I don't give a fuck how you look at it. Like, um, it still takes, and it has taken a whole lot of tears, a whole lot of fucking effort, a whole lot of work to get where I'm at. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm getting at. Like, I'm not at all anybody that is completely at. I'll be honest with you, Ty. Like, I respect the fuck out of you for completely abstaining from everything. You know what I mean? As I do anybody that abstains completely from anything. And you're right. Maybe there is something internally or in the back of my brain that's causing me to be like, no, I need to go have a beer. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't feel that way, but
Right.
you may be 100% right. And it might be the same with Jeremy. There might be something deep down in his psyche where he's like, you know, it's what I need, and it's a slippery slope, but he's justifying it just like I'm justifying it. I don't know. All I know is I have a really great life. I have really great relationships. I have really great friends. I surround myself with really great people. There are no consequences in anything that I'm doing right now. So that was the whole point of me bringing the topic on.
Yeah,
So
no, I love it.
One
Yeah, I mean, it's something that needs talked about. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because it's real life, right? But a lot, and another thing to kind of piggyback off what I was saying, it's like, well, I was taught that, the alcohol and the drugs are but a symptom, right? But the problem lies within myself, and it's
yeah.
really me. And alcohol and drugs are just what I was doing to mask the problem, right? So if I feel like I, want to drink, or if I want to smoke, or if I want to, go on a bend or whatever, it's really it's a me problem at the end of the day. It's not necessarily an alcohol and a drug problem. It's a thinking problem, like they always say. I mean, not to sound cliche, and really I wholeheartedly believe that's really what my problem was myself.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It turned into a drug problem, an alcohol problem, but it really started within myself and how I was treating people in my relationships. I was totally self-absorbed, self-centered, stepped on everyone's toes, manipulated, you know.
Well,
And,
when those types of behaviors come into play, then it's a fucking problem. You know what I mean? Like, but it's a you problem. And the drugs just manifest it.
yeah. So yeah, it's tit for tat, right? That and once again, I respect everyone's to each their own. If that
Yep.
works for you, that's great. But like the data, the real-time data may not necessarily be available to, the verdict's still out on can that work for someone, right?
Yes.
There is
Not encouraging. And also, I want to make a point. I am not encouraging this
Mm.
type of behavior for anybody that's trying to get their life together.
Mm.
Like, I can't be more clear that this is not something I'm encouraging.
Right.
I know a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of really great feedback from this topic, and I've gotten a lot of really negative feedback from this topic. And that just tells me that it's something that needs talked about. You know what I mean? This isn't me coming on and being like, I'll tell you a real quick story. My little brother, Noah, he was in a halfway house for like a year, and he would always fucking call me. He would fuck up, and I'm going to put him on blast. I don't really care. He would always call me, and the base of the conversation would always end in, I just can't wait till I'm at the level you're at where I can still have a beer. And I'm like, dude, that's not the fucking goal. Like, what do you like? That may not be. And he's proven time and time again that's not possible for him. And I've told him, like, dude, you have to fucking stop. Like, don't look up to me because it's what I do. You know what I mean? Like, you got to heal your heart and get your shit together. Like, you can't drink. Like, you fuck your life up when you drink. Like, it's not the norm. Jeremy's not the norm. Most people in recovery cannot go out and have a fucking drink, or cannot go out and smoke or whatever without it fucking turning into a downward spiral. You know, I understand we are a very small percentage of people that can get this off, but I don't want anybody to think
so far. Let's keep that. And
Yeah.
far we've
so far,
we've
That's
made
so far,
through.
yeah.
You
But
know,
I don't want
That-
anybody.
there's a lot of yets out there, right?
Yeah,
It's true.
I mean,
It's true.
here's the honest fucking raw truth of it. To be honest with you, if my wife left me today and my ghost died and like the whole world went to shit, I'll be completely transparent here. I would probably immediately go and get shit faced drunk, and at that point, it's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, if my whole life fell apart, there's a good possibility because I already feel comfortable doing it. I would fucking go out and get shit faced drunk for the wrong reason. You know what I mean? Right now, at this point, it's not because it's not to cope with consequences or to cope with bullshit in my life. Like I said, I have a good life, but I could see, like Tyler said, where that could immediately flip. And there could be a traumatic event in my life. And then at that point, Jeremy, something could happen to the girls, something could happen to Eva, and all of a sudden you're sitting down smoking a blunt for the wrong reason. You know what I mean? There's that slippery slope. Don't aspire to fucking be able to go out and smoke a joint or drink alcohol while you're sober. Like, that's not the goal. It's to heal your heart, and it's to be
Absolutely.
So what do you?
Yeah, because like you were saying, in no world do I, and that's another reason why, I don't go sit in those AA meetings. My mom even asked, why don't you go to meetings anymore? Well, Mom, because I'm not going to be a hypocrite. And in no world do I want to sit there and show these people a life that I'm leading, and they're going to be like, that's what I want to do. And then they're going to fucking follow that. And then they're going to be fucked up. And I don't want, because does not fucking work for everybody. Because here's the thing about it. If you're smoking weed so you can give yourself an excuse to drink in a couple weeks at that fucking Halloween party or that Christmas party or that fucking whatever, you are well on your way back in the wrong direction. Like, I don't go to Halloween parties, like, because, people are going to be drinking at them. There's a huge Halloween party that has every year has been going on for my, close to my family for 20 years, 15 years. They've been having this Halloween party, and it's fucking awesome. And I don't go to it because I'm nervous about whether I'm going to be, they're having so much fun. You know what I mean? And man, we'll just have one or two, you know what I mean? And it's like,
I know you didn't even come to Tyler's Halloween party, you fucking bum.
Yeah, that's the thing. The smoking weed thing keeps me in the fucking house, bro. It keeps me in the house, not fucking.
Hey, man. Hey,
I'm just
rocking your penny loafers in your robe.
Right. I'm in this motherfucker just loading, dude. If you see my truck in the driveway, there's just a loading screen going like this.
Buffering.
I'm loading and loading until something happens. Till I walk out that front door.
But no, I get it, man. And yeah, I don't ever want anybody to, if you're consistently thinking about the next time you're going to do it, if you're, you know what I mean, then it's obviously a problem. You at this point in all three of our lives, like, I mean, well, with me and Yonk, if it's becoming a problem, it's a fucking problem. You know what I mean? You recognize it and you stop doing it.
Well, you guys know where to go and who to talk to.
And that's the other benefit too, is like, I mean, Yonk, you still don't go to AA, but you have a solid support system. Also, like, we rap on the fucking group chat all day long. I know I have solid guys that if shit starts hitting the fan, I can immediately link up and be like, Ty, Yonk, like, shit's fucked up. What? Like, I need somebody to talk to. You guys, you know what I mean? You're up at the ass crack of dawn like I am. On the weekends, y'all motherfuckers piss me off because my phone's going nonstop, 50 text messages before 6 a.m. But I know I have a solid group of guys, and I have guys outside of you guys that, you know what I mean? I have a good support system. But I think a lot of it has to do with, you have to build the life that you want. You have to learn to love yourself. You have to be happy with your life, with yourself. And you have to have coping mechanisms too, to deal with fucking outside pressures and stress that aren't, oh, I had a fucking bad day, so I'm going to go home and have a beer. Oh, I had a bad day, I'm going to go home and smoke a joint. You know, I had a bad day, I'm calling my wife, I'm talking to you guys, I'm dealing with the fucking problem at hand. I'm not going to drink a beer. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I guess I'll ask this. I don't know really how to ask this. Like, what was the, how do you feel you were able to get to this point, Yonk? Like,
well, I'll tell you what. It was trial and error, and I knew that I enjoyed smoking weed, and I have anxiety, and I like to relax. I want to chill out after work and just kind of, chill a little bit. Luckily my partner, my wife, is the same way. She likes to chill out a little bit, and it's I guess I would say that for us, marijuana would be like our second DOC, you know what I mean? Our second drug of choice. And so that puts us in a place where we're happy and content. And if it wasn't my drug of choice and I wanted to be drinking, then I would smoke, looking for my next opportunity to come up with a reason to drink, because that's what I really wanted to be doing. in place of the smoking. The smoking is just that's my key. That's my ticket, my backstage pass for some people. You know what I mean? For me, it ain't. That is the show. For me, that is the show. So like, you know, I can be content with it only going that far. And so, you know, for me, it's something that I enjoy doing. And you know, now it's legal and everything like that. So you know, that really opens the door, I think, for a lot of people too, man, where, you know, if that's something that they think that they can work with, then, you know, I think that you know, maybe you should try it. If not, then don't. You know what I mean? And the reality is it comes back to checks and balances. You know what I mean? Like we've been talking about here, it comes back to doing some inventory on yourself and understanding, are you headed in the wrong direction or are you headed in the right direction, despite the fact that you are smoking weed after work or whatever, like I am. You know what I mean? And as long as I can say my life's headed in the right direction, and I'm going to tell you something too, it could go bad for me. It could go bad for me. I could get hurt at work or something, and I end up having to go down for a drug test. I could end up losing my job over it. You know, now I'm not going to lose my career over it because I can go get a job anywhere else I want unless I get hurt to a point where my career is over and I can't do that anymore. That's a whole nother story. But, you know, there's still risks that are being taken by me that are probably not that fucking smart.
Yeah.
They could cost me. It could cost me. That's the reality of it. And so, you know, I'm playing a dangerous game. You know I'm playing a dangerous game. You know,
Well, I
I'm
think that,
just,
yeah. I mean, that's dude. That's the reason I don't. Do I like smoking weed? Yeah, I would honestly. I feel I would prefer smoking weed if Mary would smoke, like to sit down and hang out and like vibe out with Mary. She can't smoke. I can't
right,
smoke. I get fucking drug
right,
tested. So I'm not going to risk my career over that.
right, right.
Unfortunately,
And that's smart.
FMCSA, DOT, that shit follows you. I get put on SAP
Absolutely.
immediately. So, but I think you're right, man. And Tyler, you're right too. It's a slippery slope. I do want to actually broach. I want to ask Tyler because this is something that I got rolling around in my head last night. So you have marijuana is now legal. So you have basically doctors prescribing it, right? You have every AA meeting I've been to, you have pots and pots of coffee. Caffeine is obviously a stimulant. You have everybody's always outside smoking. Nicotine is obviously a drug. You have doctors that are prescribing Suboxone, and those people are generally welcomed into the NA community as being sober. You know what I mean? You have all kinds of pharmaceuticals that are doled out, antidepressants, things like that. So I kind of want Tyler's take. I mean, you're a pretty fucking smart guy. What's your take? And dude, I'll be honest with you too. In the AA and NA community, steroids are fucking huge. I know tons of dudes that are fucking taking gear in recovery. You know what I mean? So at what point is there that like line? You know what I mean? Like why does everybody seem to feel that like drinking mass amounts of caffeine, and I get it, nobody's going out and robbing places or like fucking wrecking their cars over drinking too much. Well, they might wreck their car drinking too much coffee, but like you're still hurting yourself drinking coffee, smoking tobacco, taking whatever the doctor just fucking writes his script for. So what's your take on that, Tyler?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of gray areas, and you know, who am I to, you know, say what's law, right?
Yeah.
But and I, you know, I'm hesitant in a sense to bring that big blue book into this conversation because, you know, public controversy, whatever.
That's exactly why we're doing this, my guy.
But it's like, it's, you know, a drug's a drug, whether it's powder, liquid, or pill, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, coffee is a stimulant, right? You know, whether we're going to be vilified for drinking pots of coffee, I mean that's you know, it's in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Well,
Now,
I do think a lot of it, and I understand that's kind of a ridiculous comparison to throw in there, like coffee and tobacco. I
yeah,
get it. I'm literally bringing it up for like topic's sake, but like
yeah,
you
no, I
still
get
have like crazy pharmaceuticals that are doled out to
Yeah,
recovering
I mean,
addicts.
so you know, I don't mean to be a you know, keep bringing the cliches up, but you know I mean that's you know, the medical field's the medical field, right? I don't try to, you know, we try to keep medical diagnosis and anything to do with pharmaceuticals or prescriptions aside from, you know, what I was taught, right? So now, if you're going through the right avenues, I mean, that's really, all that's kind of asked of people, right? Like, you're not sitting here go copping Zoloft from some dude on the corner.
I don't know. Somebody might. That'd be
Yeah.
wild, but
You're like, once again, what are your intentions behind what you're doing?
yes.
And are you taking the proper legal avenues to do it, right? Now, me personally, like, I don't plan on smoking weed anytime soon or ever again, so on and so forth. But if I were to do it, I'd be getting a prescription, and
What about it the legitimate way?
yeah, I mean, it's so in the whole gear thing, it's like, yeah, I mean, you're see, me, I had to stop doing everything, right? I had to completely change my life. That means jaywalking, fucking, I
Yeah.
mean, to be
Yeah.
honest, like from something simple as putting my damn seatbelt on, right? Because it was true for me. Every time I was like, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Or I'm going to, choose to, take this part of the good stuff, but I'm still going to indulge in this, right? So, I mean, I had to completely shift my perspective on life to not just to abstain from alcohol and drugs, but to clean up my moral mess, right? And to achieve that psychic change. I couldn't pick and choose anymore of like what I wanted to do right. Like I know a lot of people in the program too that buy shit off of boosters and fucking buy people's food stamp cards.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I understand groceries are expensive, right? And shit's expensive. But I could not personally do that kind of shit as much as I wanted to,
Yeah.
but because it wasn't the right thing to do and is illegal, right? So it's like not to kind of go off on a side quest, but the whole gear thing, I mean, it's fucking illegal, right? I mean, point blank, period. Whether whatever reason you're doing it for, if you're doing it for quality of life, because you want to look better naked, whatever your reason or excuses are for doing it. I mean, I get it, right? But let's call it what it is. Once again, right? It's illegal,
Yeah.
and once again, like, so the whole point being, on the mental side of things, if you are willing to break this rule and break that rule and break this rule, it just makes the next rule that much easier to break.
Yeah.
And that's where my mind goes. So if I mean the human mind is such a complex thing, but it's also as simple as, hey, I'm not gonna do this, right? But
Yeah.
everyone knows that it's not quite as easy as that.
Right.
And as far, I've never really been a advocate for Suboxone ever.
No, I never have either. I've never been on. I think I was on it for like 3 days at a rehab facility to detox, and they weaned
I've
me
taken
out on it.
Suboxone, dude, and it's got me fucking peeled, right?
Yeah.
You know, hey, if that's what you want to do as a stepping stone, sure, man, go ahead. But these people that have been on Suboxone for fucking 3 years, it's like, dude, like, what are we doing here?
But and again, I'm just going to bring this back up, man. It boils back to quality of life too. Like if you have to have that Suboxone in your system, but you're not out robbing, dude. I was fucking robbing houses. Like
Mm.
I look back on the shit that I did, and I'm so thankful that nothing serious or detrimental. Nobody ever shot me. Nobody ever beat the fucking brakes out of me for being in their fucking house. You know what? Nobody ever caught me. Like one guy caught me in his house. That's how I ended up going to prison. But I look back on like quality of life and I'm like, I was doing that shit because I had fucking a needle in my arm 15 times a day. You know what I mean? I needed that fucking dope and I was willing to do whatever to get it. And my quality of life was shit, you know? So and I'm not knocking anybody that's on Suboxone. Like I think it all boils back to quality of life and where your heart's at, where your head's at. Are you functional? Like I said, I'm not knocking anybody on Suboxone, or I'm not knocking anybody that does testosterone. I'm not knocking anybody that fucking takes antidepressants, drinks coffee, or fucking smokes cigarettes. You know what I mean?
Can I say something real quick? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead. I just wanted to be kind of play the other side of what Tyler was talking about. Like, okay, so for me, I smoke weed. Well, it's illegal, so I decide I'm going to go to a doctor and I'm going to say I have anxiety, sir. He's going to be like, all right, let me write you the prescription for Xanax. And then I stumble my fucking half dead ass into that fucking AA meeting with a straight face and tell everybody I'm sober
Yeah.
because it's prescribed to me. What are you talking about?
And
It's
you're
prescribed to
fucking
me.
yoked on
But
Xanax. Yeah.
I know inside of me that's not a good fit. That's not going to work out. That doctor don't know that, but I got prescribed it. So what's the problem? Well,
That
the
was just
problem is that
go ahead.
you got to be doing that fucking you got to know what's best for you inside of you. And if you know what's best for you inside of you, and that's why I am not going to a doctor to get prescribed Xanax, or I'm not going to a doctor to get prescribed Ambien for sleeping. I'm not going to be doing any of that because I understand that just because a doctor prescribed it to me does not mean it's okay for me or good for me.
No,
And even though it's
and half the doctors out there are fucking idiots, dude. I was prescribed
they're not going to
Klonopin as
help
a
me.
full-on drug addict. Like my doctor knew I
Right.
was a drug addict, and he gave me fucking a whole script of Klonopin. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and that
They don't care.
the whole pill mill thing too.
They're being paid by those people are all being paid by these big drug companies, and they get paid to write those prescription out, and they don't give a fuck about my life or what happens to me as a result of it. I care about what happens to me as a result of it. That's why I don't necessarily subscribe to what Tyler's saying about, hey, well, if it's prescribed by a doctor, hey, it must be good and right. Well, maybe not though, dude, because not
Yeah.
everybody's going in there. And some of them people are going in there just to get a prescription for something that they don't even have a problem with. They're just going to get that prescription so they can sell them to get the thing they do want, or they actually take them because they know it's going to get them high. All these people that are taking gabapentin and things like that all the time, left and right. I mean, yeah, they're sober, dude. They're sober. They're sober as far as anybody's concerned. Whatever. Okay. I mean, and they're but they got to go to sleep every night, knowing damn well that they got to go out and pick that script of gabapentin up and go give that money back to Julie and whatever the fuck else, so they can get their get right or whatever. And they know what they're doing, man. Even though they're walking in saying they're sober, they're not fucking sober, and they should know that. But they don't care because a lot of times people, it's not about what they know about themselves inside. It's about public perception about who they are as a person. And so they'll lie, cheat, and steal because that's who we are, man, as people for the most part. You know what I mean? People lie, cheat, and steal when to get the things they want. And it's like, it comes with some brutal honesty for yourself. You got to have some brutal honesty. And
Well, and it's your
for
internal
me to be
checks and
brutally
balances,
honest
dude.
is not to be in one of them doctors trying to get prescribed something for anxiety.
Yeah,
No,
Not for me.
it's funny you just brought that up, man, because I get prescribed gabapentin because of my back surgery, and I have sciatica in my fucking legs, so they prescribe it for me. But there have been times where I've been like, do I really need to take this? You know what I mean? Like, does it really do it? There's times I don't even take it because I'm like, I don't even think it's doing anything. But it all boils back to my drug addiction started because I was prescribed 224 Percocet by a fucking doctor when I was fucking 20 years old for a fucking injury from football. You know what I mean? Now, it led to my back surgery down the years, like years later, but like that's where a lot of times, and my doctor knows that I'm a former drug addict. Like, I'm very clear. When I had my back surgery, he like made Mary take a script of Oxy and Percocet home because he's like, this is fucking serious. He was like, I don't want you calling me at midnight and being like, hey, dude, I'm fucked up. I can't move. Like, I'm in pain. And then he's like, you're not waking me up at midnight. He was like, I'm giving them to your wife and she can out if you need them. Dude, I think I took like my whole back surgery. I think I took 2 because it fucking scared me, bro. It scared me. And I'm like, here I am. I'm telling my doctor I'm a drug addict and I can't have these. And you're still prescribing me Oxycontin and Percocet. And I'm like, so we've had like the honest conversation since then. And I'm like, dude, I wake up, I'm in fucking pain. I've got like burning, like nerve pain that goes down my fucking left leg from sciatica. He's like, if you're comfortable taking gabapentin, I'll give you gabapentin. It'll help with the nerve pain. You know what I mean? But a lot of fucking doctors, like the asshole that I saw when I was 20 years old, was just real quick to fucking be like, oh, you're in pain? And it was all the opioid. But what business does a fucking 20-year-old have getting 224 Percocet a month? Like, come the fuck on, dude.
Yeah, and I want to clear kind of up what kind of I was saying. I was more so talking about, the marijuana thing. I don't, dude, I barely take ibuprofen, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I try not to put anything in my body. So not, I'm 100% on the same page. Like, let's separate, like recovery tie and personal opinion tie real quick, right? So the whole doctor shit, that's a whole nother wormhole, dude. And it's like, I don't agree with any of that shit. And like, I'm not really the, conspiracy theory type, but let's be honest, right? I mean, that whole situation's already been exposed with big pharma. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's kind of more spinning off of what Jeremy was kind of saying. Like, I don't agree with anyone, doctor shopping and going like, oh, well, I really have bad anxiety. I need Xanax, right? Like some people have chemical imbalances in their brain
Yeah.
and may need some type of medication to level that out. Now, if someone's going, it's all, based on intention too. And yeah, I wouldn't suggest, or I don't think, because I'm, you guys know me on a personal level, dude. Like, I'm like, no, you're weak. Don't take nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you broke your leg, fucking walk it off. Right?
So I told Chris that when he fucking messed his ankle up. I'm like, walk it off, you're fine.
Yeah, I'm like, but
Look out there.
yeah, like people saying, oh, I'd much rather see someone smoke some weed than say, hey man, I need a script of Xanny bars and
Yeah.
I need Klonopin and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, dude. Once again, that's why I don't really try to get involved with the whole medical side of it, man, because at the end of the day, it's based off intentions. And for once again, yourself. So when you go in for a surgery or for a medical procedure and you straight up tell the doctor, like, hey, I have a problem with this. So don't sit here and hand me the own noose to hang myself with, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do that.
No.
They go into a doctor's office and they're like, hey, I really need this Xanax because I have bad anxiety. You know what I mean? So that's a whole nother kind of intention-based thing, right? So what are your intentions behind what you're doing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. But that's part of becoming. Listen, man, we could take the whole. Let's just take for a minute. Take the whole fucking term sobriety out of this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What I think the main point that I'm trying to get across is, are you living a happy, fulfilled life? You know what I mean? And I'm going to continue to say it time and time again. You ultimately know what your intentions are. You ultimately know if something is a fucking problem. You are in control of your actions. Nobody else is like telling you need this, or you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, do you love yourself? Do you have good relationships with people? Are you living a fucking productive life? Are you hurting anybody? Are you not hurting? You know what I mean? Like that's what it all boils down to. And that's really just the point that I was trying to get across with all this. Again, and I know I keep going back to it. I'm only going back to it because I don't want a bunch of DMs in my fucking messages later because I got tired of looking at them yesterday. I understand unconventional sobriety is not a thing. I'm literally just trying to broach the subject for people that still smoke, people that might still go out and have a few drinks, you know what I mean? People that use gear, whatever. If you're doing you and you're healthy, you're living a good life, you're doing your own thing, you're not hurting anybody, nobody should give a fuck what you're doing. You know what I mean? It shouldn't even be a thing. If I want to go into AA and have a conversation with somebody and be able to, I should be able to go in and talk openly and say, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying go in and like do a lead because I would never do that. That's just like Jeremy said, that's fucking disrespectful. You know what I mean? You got a whole group of people in there that cannot ever like pick anything up, touch anything ever again. But it all boils down to like heal your heart, man. Be healthy, happy, have good relationships, surround yourself with great people and people that aren't going to judge you, and just live your life. Like that's the whole point of it, you know?
And it takes a level where it all comes from too is you have to be 100% brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be 100% brutally honest with yourself, because if you can't do that and you tell yourself lies and you do all the things that get you back, it's not going to fucking work, man.
Yeah.
It's not going to work at all.
Well, I'll tell and I've said this before time and time again, the best move I ever made in my life was getting in that semi truck, because up until up until I left advanced poly, I was starting to fall down that slope again where I fucking hated myself, you know, because I was not being honest with myself. I was slipping, and I was slipping fast. I was scaring my wife. I was scaring my kids, and getting in that truck and being able to sit quietly with myself and actually like think about what's going on upstairs, where my life is, what I'm doing with it, what my true thoughts, intentions, and feelings are. That was the best, that it's been the best move I've ever made because it gives me that time to reflect. So that's why I always tell people, like, you need to take time and sit and meditate. My time to meditate is when I've got that open road in front of me and I have all the time in the world for 4 days a week to think about whatever I need to think. I can be raw with my own emotions, with my own feelings. If I need to fucking cry and cry in the truck, I can't tell you how many times I've shed tears in that truck, but I'm being honest with myself. You know what I mean? I'm taking that time to think about my true intentions and feelings. And that's a big game changer in fucking healing your heart, man. That's been one of the biggest ones for me, is just taking that time to understand what your true intentions are with yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
So
another thing I want to kind of add is like it's well, damn, I kind of had a little brain fart there. Yeah, when you it's I don't want to whatever. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I'll
I was talking about, I mean, I don't know if you were going to piggyback off. I was talking about like intentions with your, like knowing your own intentions, knowing your own heart.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing I do is like, you know, if you're in my like close inner circle, right, I'm gonna take it upon myself to say something. But there's so many times in my everyday life where I feel like, oh, you know, I need to set this person straight, right? But you know, it's not my place to say anything. Did this person ask for my opinion?
Well,
No. Does
it,
it need said,
Right.
or does it need to be said by me? And a lot of the times, the answer is
Right.
no.
as having two of my best friends on here, those are people you should surround yourself with. You should have a tight little circle of men that are going to hold you accountable. Like that's
Mm,
extremely important, dude. And we do that with each other. Like you're being an asshole, I'm going to tell you you're being an asshole. Like that's why I love this group that we have here. You know what I mean?
mm.
And you're right. You need to have guys that are going to hold you accountable.
Right. So I kind of break that rule with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes someone will say something and then like, oh, here goes fucking Ty. You know. But you know what I mean? But I love that about what we have because like, yeah, normally I wouldn't say anything, right? But like
Yeah.
if like people are in my inner circle, I'm gonna say something, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And but there's other times I don't say stuff and I kind of beat myself up over it because like, you know, like, no, did this person ask for my input? No, not exactly. But this person knows that I have their, you know, my best intention in mind when it comes to them and that I truly care about them. And it's like, dude, I'm not saying it. And dude, I'm not, and yeah, I may be completely absent from anything, but you know what I mean? The work's never done, right? I'm far from perfect. I make mistakes quite often in my personal relationships. Yeah, they may be fewer and further in between and they may not be as drastic when they do happen because of all the work I've done, but dude, like everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And but I want people around me except my wife to tell me when I'm, you know, when I'm fucking up or when I'm like looking at something a little skewed, you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
and I love my wife, but when, you know, it's different when your wife says something to you, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
That's a big item of contention in our house. Take constructive criticism from anybody except my wife.
so, so yeah, man, it's all
It's true.
about knowing yourself. And I am a believer in like, hey, man, but for me, right? For me, like, whatever you're doing is what you're doing. You know what I mean? But, you know, we've talked about several times just amongst ourselves. I was like, man, just kind of pay
Watch what
attention
you
to
do.
what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I, you know, have a hard time with people I care about being like, hey, man, yeah, that's fucking awesome, dude. Even though, like, hey, you love it and
I'm worried
you're
about you.
having a great time and it makes you feel better, whatever. But it's like, dude, I have to like the fabric of self. I have to be like, well, hey, man, let's take a second look at this, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I just know, and that's me speaking for myself, but kind of putting it onto you guys as well. It's like, dude, I'd be terrified to do some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be terrified. So it's like,
No, that's why that's, and again, I'll say it. It's
Mhm.
not for everybody. I know a very small portion of people that are able to do it. But like I said, that some of those people have reached out to me and thanked me for broaching this topic because they're at a loss sometimes as to, you know what I mean? Where do I fit in here?
Yeah.
Do I broadcast this? Do I talk about this? Do I keep it to myself? Like, you know what I mean? And ultimately, at the end of the day, Tyler, you are 100% right. And to the people that called me out on this yesterday, you are 100% right. Being sober is completely abstaining from using any sort of substance. I get that.
Right.
Uh, there are people that should be celebrated for their accomplishments. Like
Sure.
Jeremy, 8 years without doing meth. Me, 10 years not doing heroin. You know what I mean? Those small victories still need celebrated. And
Yeah.
if I still want to call that my sober date from heroin, like I'm still going to call it my sober date. Like your rules
Right.
don't necessarily have to be my rules as far as how I live my life, what I do. And that's the beautiful thing about who we are as humans is it's not a one size fits all. You know, what works
Mhm.
for you may not necessarily work for somebody else, but it still works for me. You know?
They got a term for what I am, and they call it California sober.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They call it California sober. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and there are people out there, and there's plenty of group of people out there that are just like me that are doing the same things I'm doing, you know, and they consider themselves California sober. And,
Yeah.
you know, and hey, that term doesn't work for everybody, and it doesn't have to. It's just got to work for me. You know what I mean? And
Well, and at the end of the day, I think there's always been it's dude, people are by human nature is people are ultimately just in general ugly to each other, dude. Like there's always like competition and conflict. And the whole point of the podcast, man, is just to make people understand like you got to love each other. Like again, I Tyler could come on here and be like, "No, dude. Like, if we would have had this conversation and you came on here, Ty, and you were like, "No, dude, you're not fucking sober. Shut the fuck up." Like we're not doing this, you know. I would still respect your opinion. I'm not coming at you. I'm not coming back after you. You know what I mean? Like that's your opinion. That's the beautiful thing about fucking life. Everybody, it's
right.
all different walks of nature. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Different things work
Yeah.
for different people. So as long as you are happy, healthy, and living the life that you love, who am I to fucking
That's
say
it.
you're doing it wrong? You know?
That's it.
So, all right, gentlemen, we're pushing on an hour. You got anything else you want to talk about or say?
I think we did a pretty good job covering a lot of shit.
Ty's real tied up with fucking.
Call duty, call duty. But
Right on. All
yeah,
right, brother.
it's the off season, so you know I dabble.
No, I know. No, you deserve. Hey, you are. Hey, I'm going to tell both of you, Ty. You're one of the fucking hardest working dudes I've ever known, man, and that's what I love about you. So you 100% deserve to have a few months of downtime since business has kind of come
Sure.
back, man. So enjoy it.
Yeah,
Sure.
tell my wife.
Yes.
I'll bet. Hey, that big ass calendar on your wall in the kitchen. I bet that motherfucker is full to the brim with a honeydew list right now.
Unreal, dude. Yeah, one thing I just want to add too, it's like whatever you're doing, whatever is working for you, you know, do something to maintain it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Don't just sit there and be flapping in the wind. You know what I mean? Whether it's, you know, like, of course I'm going to say, you know, get sober, do your steps, whatever, you know, whatever. Right. But the gentler side of me is like, you know, hey, if you are California sober, or if you're whatever groove you're in, and if it's working, if it's truly working, not just in your head, right? I mean, at
Yeah.
least try to do something to maintain what you're doing. What
You
are
know
you
what consequences are going on in your life. Like, you know if
what
there's
are you
consequences.
doing? What are you doing to keep what you got, and to not only do
Mhm.
that, but to kind of move forward, right? So just ended on kind of a
Absolutely.
universal plus, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll be back on here soon. I got a couple things I want to talk about.
No, hit me up with it. We'll get back on here. I'm down whenever. And you got time now, so let's do it before you
Yeah,
get back in your busy season.
right. Cool.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this. Everybody that tuned in, I appreciate all you tuning in. Make sure if you are watching this on the YouTube page to like, comment, subscribe. That'll just push us up in the rankings, get the message out there. There's tons of, I know the website's down right now. My son kind of flopped on that, so I got to get a new website up. But the webuildmonsters.org, I at least own the domain, so we will have a website back up here shortly with links, resources for some recovery houses, some reentry housing, some everybody that's been on the show. I'll post their links back up for everything from cleaning services to towing companies. So
Yeah, and I'm gonna be hiring more next year too.
okay. So job opportunity. Yeah, I had a bunch of links for job opportunities, and Tyler is definitely a second chance grantor. So if anybody out there has felonies, has a background in tree work or wants to get into it, hit Ty up. But thanks guys for tuning in, and we will check you later.
All right, y'all.
Dudes.
Bye. That was cool.